Welcome to Podband Podcast.
The premier pipe band podcast.
Yay!
Yay!
Happy New Year!
Yay!
Yay!
It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's not even like in the time frame when it's still acceptable to say Happy New Year. It's like by the time you guys listen to this, it'll be, I don't know when it'll be.
Who knows when we're gonna upload it?
Sometime in 22. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while. Good to see you here.
Good to be in your ears once again.
Be with you. Yeah. This is a good time. We were gonna, so
there's a
story. We were gonna have some of you true fans of the channel, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All of you will have celebrated New Year's on sometime around New Year's, mm-hmm. because that's what we do. We do the do. And referencing back to our New Year's episode from 21, mm-hmm. when we drank all of the flavors of Mountain Dew that we could find, and we discussed all the things that we wanted to change about pipe bands and pipe banding and the act of everything that we do, and whether they were realistic or not.
Exactly.
If we could make it better, this is what would make it better.
Just like whatever, just crazy brainstorming fest.
That's we weren't trying to implement any of it.
No, because
it just would have made it better.
I mean, clearly last year nothing happened in pipe bands. Like barely. Some things happened. Not very many things happened. Not as much as going to happen Not as much as is going to happen this year. Hopefully. But now that I've said that,
you're going to ruin it.
I'm going to ruin it. Yeah. I'm sorry. No one say that 2022 is your year.
That's not our year.
It's not our year. It's not.
It's not.
So anyway, and then so we did that, and then we also had the guys do that, and so there were like 4 episodes, like a whole month of Mountain Dew, and it was crazy, but it was fun. And this year we were gonna do it again, but the thing is, none of us like Mountain Dew.
We're not fans.
I'm sorry. Baja Blast is okay. Some of the other ones are okay, but we just didn't want to drink.
If I had to drink a whole soda, it's not going to be a Mountain Dew. I don't know what it would be, but it wouldn't be Mountain Dew.
So this time we decided to start off the year by doing hot takes.
With hot coffee.
So we have our hot coffee here. Sponsored by Dutch Bros.
Yes, we're not sponsored us. We're the pipe band podcast of Dutch Bros.
Yeah. Hashtag Dutch Bros. Thank them for their sponsorship. So to kind of explain this idea, because some of you may not be of the age group where you understand what a hot take is.
What age group doesn't understand? I
mean, I feel like, okay, so this is what I'm saying. Hot take. Renegade by Styx is just a knockoff Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
Oof, you've offended
hot
Alex.
Take. I know. That's what a hot take is. Okay, so, and I also didn't fact check that. I don't know which one came first, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's a hot take.
That's a hot take. I don't know Renegade, but...
So, now, let me define hot take for you before you start being super offended, which I'm glad you're offended if you're offended by that, if you understand what I'm saying. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines hot take as a quickly produced, strongly worded, and often deliberately provocative or sensational opinion or reaction, as in response to current news. So politicians do this all the time. They have their hot take. It's like, you didn't really think that one through, did you? But it's just an opinion. Mm-hmm. And it's commonly, or in a good way when it's used, is to facilitate conversation. And you're basically trying to say something provocative to get someone talking about it. And then in the hopes that they say, like, you're wrong because XYZ. And then you can say, actually, you're wrong because XYZ. And then you're going to have a dialogue about it. Mm-hmm. So hot takes with hot coffee. We're going to start off this year by having some hot takes of our own about pipe bands. and pipe banding and everything that we do. And you can listen to us and say how wrong we are and start conversation about it.
Yep.
Or maybe we're right. I don't know.
We're always right.
I mean,
hot take.
Hot take.
Not a hot take. That's a straight up fact.
Controversial opinions. That's what this episode is about. So, let's address the elephant in the room.
I didn't get a hot coffee because iced coffee is better.
Hot take.
It's the superior coffee.
I gotta take a sip every time. Okay, we say a hot take, and then we take a sip of coffee so you listening can ponder the hot take.
Yes.
And you can have just the right amount of time to either get super upset by it or just kind of like think about it. So
take your time.
Hot take. I'm not a fan of iced coffee. Hot take.
You're wrong.
That's why my coffee is hot. Hot take.
She gets hot coffee even in the summer, and see, I'm offended by that. You know how hot it is outside?
But there's just something about it when I taste the flavor of coffee that if it's not hot and it's not an ice cream, I'm just like, what? You know?
What is this delicious drink?
I'm going to start off with a hot take. Once again, I'll say the hot take and
we'll hot take a sip.
Marching and deportment should be judged at mass bands. Hot take.
You know why? Because none of y'all can stand still. That's why.
You can't march and you can't stand still. What can you do?
No. And you sit there and you drink and you throw your trash on the ground and you
Okay, so context for this thought. So mass bands in the traditional sense, in the sense that it is a bunch of bands gathered together playing something together and then standing and then playing something else together. I've noticed it's vastly different in the UK than it is in the States, and even in Canada to some degree, because I've been to various games in various places. In the UK, in Scotland specifically, at the contest that we went to, which was various places, but it's kind of been like you all gather, all the pipe bands gather for the purpose of hearing the awards at the end of the day, right? You want to know who won the contest. And then people say stuff and they read out the names of the bands that won the contest, and that's kind of it. And so the bands that are there, kind of the whole purpose of you being there is like for the purpose of seeing who won. In the United States, and this is especially true, we're in the Western United States. And here it's more that the bands are the entertainment and the backdrop for the opening and closing ceremonies of the event. So the mass bands, when you're here, are not for you. When you're a pipe band at a mass bands in this part of the world, it's not about you. You don't get to stand there and drink beer on the field. You don't get to take off your shoes and go sit down. Like, you don't get to I'm not saying all those things have happened regularly in other places, but it's just a difference in when you don't bring out your best for mass bands in this part of the country. There are spectators watching you because they've literally paid to enter this event, and they're like, oh, let me go see the opening ceremonies. This is where they do the big hullabaloo of like, welcome to the Highland Games, and they have the clan chief that's there, and he talks about his thing, and then he says the games are open, and they have people doing the national anthems, and they have that going on, and they have people giving speeches about how wonderful it is that we can all gather and do this, and if you're in the band, you're behind all of that happening, and you're center stage. You may not be playing right now, but like, you're there as entertainment for this event. It's not about you. You see what I mean?
Yeah, you're there. You're the performance. It's not.
Yeah.
And would I rather it be just about the bands? Just give us our awards so we can go?
Yes.
Is it? No, it's not.
And as long as that is the case, you're basically a hired musician at that point in time. So whether it's the morning and you got a bad hangover from the pub last night, and you don't want to be there because it's hot and it's the middle of the day and you're standing there, it doesn't matter. You've been paid. Your band has been paid to be entertainment at this event. So don't be an idiot. That, and if it's the end of the day, everyone's tired. We're all tired. We all want to go home. We want to know who won, and then we want to leave. But at the end of the day, you still have been paid to be there. And honestly, the only way I can think of to make people care about it more, other than just, saying it, is judge marching and deportment based on don't judge me at my best. Judge me at my worst. That's a saying, right?
No, I don't think that's. I think the saying is, if you can't handle me at my worst,
okay, then you don't deserve the best. But you know what I mean? If you put a marching and deportment judge on the field at mass bands, you would see people straighten up, because
it would actually look good for once.
Yes, and your score would be dependent on, that's just another competition. And the great thing is, you can look good regardless of your playing ability. So, some people say, oh, well, mass bands, we have our new people come out because all they know how to play so far is Scotland the Brave and Green Hills, whatever. Like, okay, they can still look right. You still have to put on your shoes the correct way, whether you're in a grade 5 band or a grade 1 band, or you've never competed a day in your life. Like, you still need to wear your shoes. You still need to wear your kilt. You need to look like your band looks. You need to dress right. So hot take, man, that was a big long one. Hot take.
That was a hot take.
I gotta take a sip. Marching and deportment, keep in mind, also marching. Learn how to do a counter march. Just you should know how to do a counter march. You should know how to do a wheel. You should know how to walk in a straight line. You should know how to stay in step. And if you show up to play mass bands at the end of the day and you're too drunk to be able to do any of those things, you should not play. You should get cut just like any other time.
Hold on, you're telling me if I get drunk, I can skip mass bands? That's what I'm hearing right now, and I'm down.
We may have some unintended consequences here, but you see what I'm saying? When you're a hired musician, like, have some respect. Do your job. It is your job. Save the 15 beers you're going to drink for that night, like, after mass bands. I get it. You like the beer tent, and I get it. You don't like it. You're tired. It's the end of the day. I get it.
Nobody likes mass bands.
No.
But it's what you do.
And it's not about you. Once again, it's not about you.
Not everything's about you.
Hot take. Not everything is about you. Man, that was a hot one. What's next?
Next is pipe bands should be more unique. Each band has a medley, sure, but each band also needs to have another set or a couple of tunes that they always march up to. Did you remove the style thing?
Oh, maybe I added that in the doc. I don't know.
They should just be more unique.
Yeah.
Sip.
Hot take.
Like, I personally like when the bass drum is loud. And I know we got yelled at all the time for the longest time about that. But I think it sounds good. I think that could be an MCPB style. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
So, you ever watch American Idol?
Like the first season?
Yes, okay, so this is my point. The first few seasons of American Idol, they had all of these people who, like, didn't really know how to sing. They didn't really know what they were doing, but they all kind of had, like, their own thing, and they all did their own styles and everything. And I watched it again, like, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, and I was like, man, all of these people sound the same. Because, and it's it's a thing in music where if you're trying to be a pop star, you have to have a certain sound. You have to sound marketable, and that means, a certain particular sound. So that a lot of, or most of, this really famous pop stars kind of sound the same, which is a hot take in and of itself. Hot take. We got to take a sip.
Hot take a sip.
But I just kind of get nervous that pipe bands are going the same way, right?
They all sound very similar, and some of them even play the same tunes.
Yes. And okay, I understand, like, you're playing an MSR, whatever, like, you have to have a March Strauss band reel, and there's really only, like, 4 or 5 tunes that people play, which is frustrating, but, like, there's probably some reason for that, because tradition, or they have certain technicalities about them that make it good for judging, I don't know. Whatever, but and competition music notwithstanding, if you walk into a Highland Games and you're blindfolded, have someone guide you because don't trip and fall. But let's say you're blindfolded and you're just walking through the Highland Games and you hear a band, would you be able to identify that band? And they're not playing their competition stuff. Would you be able to identify that band just based on the way they sound? If you're saying no, we have a problem, do we not? We're all unique. We're all different.
Let's sound different.
We should, right?
Yeah.
Should we not? I don't know. That's my hot take.
I agree with that hot take.
Yeah.
More bass. And midsection. We're doing fun things in the midsection. No one wants to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell, based on drumming, I feel like drumming is one place where we kind of drumming is our redeeming factor. If you're listening to I'm not talking about mass band scores, but I'm talking about actual scores that have been written for actual tunes, whether they're in a medley or they're just a concert set. You can tell the difference between 2 lead tips, right? You can tell the difference between who composed it generally. It's like, I even told Cody about that. I was like, when he started writing some of his music, which I believe we interviewed him on about becoming a drum sergeant on the show, and so you can go back and listen to that. But I had told him, after I listened to the scores that he wrote for some of our tunes, I was like, I can tell you were channeling Dave here, and I can tell you were channeling Ed Best here, and this one is very, this one's very Kilpatrick, this part you put in here, and this one's very Reed Maxwell, and that. And some of it, like, as you become a better, like, composer, tune, kind of composer. It's weird when you're writing drum scores. I don't know what they call that, but you kind of develop your own style. And, like, I know we'll see that from him eventually, and we already are kind of seeing that, but that's like the one redeeming factor that I can tell, like, okay, I'm listening to the drum settings and I hear, like, oh, Ed Best wrote this. Like, I can tell,
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we play mass bands music for a lot of our stuff that's not competition stuff. We're getting away from that. We are learning some new stuff.
Yes.
Which I like, and that's a step in the right direction. But yeah, in general, you're walking around the games, it kind of sounds the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that in 22, we get some unique styles out there. Next one. Hot take. Competition circle format makes no sense. Hot take, hot take, hot take.
Well, tell me why.
So, imagine you're performing an instrument. And whether you're performing for one person or for an audience of 50 people or 10,000 people, you stand with your back to that person.
Yes.
So there are benefits to the competition circle format in terms of we march in and we're all facing each other, and that's cool because then you can kind of get a read off of people. You can see whoever your section leader is, generally. But it's kind of, if you think about it, you're performing to the judges, right? That's kind of what we're doing here?
Mm-hmm.
You want them to be the ones listening to you, so why do you have your backs turned to them? It kind of makes it's a really interesting, like, acoustic thing that happens where the sound, like, is focused inward. So it's because pipe bands can sometimes be directional, like when when a band is marching at you, it's, like, really easy to hear. If you're behind the band, you can hear the drum section a lot better. If you're, like, off to the sides, you can hear different things going on with the midsection because of where the tenors are versus where the bass is. Even, like, the direction the bass drum is turned it sounds vastly different where you are in the circle. So it's just, it's weird to me that you have that beautiful sound marching in, and then you all turn and you face inward. And I don't really, it seems to me that it would make more sense to kind of present yourself to the audience, present your sound in a way where it's going to be even, like acoustically, for how you want it to sound. It shouldn't depend on what seat you have in the audience. It should be like you're all kind of focusing to where the judges are. Because there's also some times when, like, even if there's, like, let's say you're listening to a band compete and you're on one side of the circle and your friend is on the other side of the circle, and you're like, oh man, that sounded really, like, there's a lot of dirt happening in the Strass Bay. And then your friend was like, what are you talking about? That was super clean in the Strass Bay. It's because you're on different ends of the circle. And I mean, depending on how big your circle is, but there's just like, it's a weird thing where any other musical group performing would never do that. Like, you're setting it up to be inconsistent. It does not make any sense to me. And I get, once again, this is a hot take because there's always someone out there who's going to be like, yeah, well, in the year 1892, they started doing this because XYZ. Like, I get it. I understand. But as musicians, you got to question things at some point. So that's why it's a hot take. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I didn't enjoy when we turned the tenors around, because then I was just like playing for Alex. Alex doesn't need to hear me.
But see, that's another thing too. What do you do with the tenor drums based on how many you have? Various bands have tried different things over the years, and which direction do they face? Where do you place them? You want them to sound as even as possible, but like regardless, if there's a tenor on the outside versus a tenor on the inside on the other side of the band, and you're standing next to the one tenor, you're going to hear that tenor more. And that's not really what I want as a musician. Because then you have to do all kinds of counterbalancing things where it's like, oh, well, based on this drum in this location, you probably want to play louder or whatever. I know that gets very nitpicky. Maybe no one else thinks of this. I think of this. Please tell me I'm not the only one.
You're the only one.
That and, okay, Edinburgh Championships. I did not make this up. You remember Edinburgh Championships in Scotland? We competed on a stage and we played in concert format. So the pipers were in front and the drummers were in back. They literally wanted us to do that. So I must not be crazy.
It was good. I think it sounded good.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, and if you're sitting in the stage, then you're using the venue to your advantage in terms of the acoustics that have been designed there. Because, like, I don't even know that much about sound design, but they manage these things when they build these places so that any seat you're sitting in sounds good and you're not just like getting only half the performance. Ugh. I think I've had too much coffee already. Please tell me I'm not crazy. Please tell me someone else has thought of this. Okay. Give me another hot take.
Another hot take. Can you handle another hot take?
I don't know. How hot is it?
Highland Games should be an opportunity for learning and camaraderie, not just competition.
That one's coming in hot.
I hope they can hear the ice.
Okay. You have an event where you have, even at the smallest games, you might have 5 bands gathered and in various skill levels. Judges are usually some of the most musically accomplished people in your immediate area, or some of the most musically accomplished people that could be brought in. And you're telling me that all you're going to have them do is listen to you play one time and write one sheet of comments and not even hand it to you directly.
They're going to give it to someone else who's going to give it to someone else who's going to give it to someone else and you can pick it up at the end of the day after you can't even have the opportunity to talk to the amazing musician that wrote it.
And I can't read it most of the time.
Exactly. And like, we had Ed Best on the show and he talked about being a judge and how difficult that is because you're listening and you're writing and you may not be able to write down exactly what you mean or it may not translate exactly right. So they may put down one word and you think it means something other than what they think it means. But by the end of the day or the end of the weekend, you've lost your opportunity to really learn something. Right? I mean,
yeah.
And then and you've got all these other bands there that also have incredibly talented musicians in them, even bands you compete against, and you never talk to them in a musical way. You might see them at the beer tent, but you never like really learn anything from each other at any games that you go to. Think about it. Like, and I know there's going to be someone out there that's like, that's not true. I actually have so-and-so listen to my set at every... Good for you. I'm saying by the vast majority of the time, it's like all the bands are just focused on just competing. And then you do your contest, you head to the beer tent, you have a couple beers, and then you go get ready for mass bands. That's what you do. Yeah, you might listen to other bands if you have time after. You might discuss a little bit amongst yourselves, but you're not in the situation of like let's say you had XYZ awesome person judging piping. Wouldn't you love to have just like 30 minutes of their time to sit down with you to actually explain what they think you could do better?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you even love to have like, let's say you're us and there's a grade 1 band at your local games. Wouldn't you love to have their pipe major sit down with you for like an hour or so and just kind of and listen to you play and like work on a couple things with you? That would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Do we do that at Highland Games on the regular? I do not think we do. I really wish we did. I really wish that was the standard. But this thing that we do is just very strange.
Even just more judge feedback would be good. Like when I was in marching band, when we went to competitions, they would judge us with a tape recorder. So they would listen to us, they would say all their thoughts, and then they could go back and write whatever notes or whatever. And then we'd get the tapes.
Yes.
So we got to listen to what they were thinking as it was happening too. Because we could hear where it was in the background and sometimes even hear what was wrong that they mentioned. Like just expanding upon those thoughts.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. And I know that's kind of the best we've been able to do up until this point.
We could have tape recorders.
We could have. I mean, I don't know why we don't. Because people are cheap and don't like to buy things.
I cannot imagine. You have a phone.
I mean, that's true.
It's 2022, y'all.
iPhones have what, the voice memo or whatever that comes standard on every iPhone you ever get.
Also have that.
I don't know if my phone has that.
You just got
honestly,
a phone without a button, so.
I just got a phone. My last phone was from like 2016, and I just got a new phone, and I was like, wow, it's so fast. So I don't even know everything it can do. But like, to be fair, maybe that's the best we've been able to do to this point. But like you said, it's 2022.
Get with it. We can do better.
Give me something.
Instead of your crappy handwriting that I can have to like decipher.
I swear, like the people that judge us at contests, I'm like, this is fantastic. Why are we wasting this opportunity? Like, okay, they can tell us XYZ that we did wrong, when it would maybe be much more effective for them to just sit down for a little bit and just be like, hey, you're not playing this right. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Something.
That's
more.
That's a hot take. Yeah. That's a hot take. Okay. This one is last because it's perhaps the hottest take of them all.
Oh dear.
Well, maybe not. Maybe some of the other ones were worse than this, but when I explain it to you, you will realize. Okay. Bands should be paid a travel expense for out-of-state Highland Games. Or out of area, I guess, wherever you are, but
That's a hot take, right?
Is that not the standard?
I'm going to get to that in just a second.
Okay.
All right, so quick math. Let's do some quick math. Let's say a standard, let's say for like a grade 3 band, standard number of musicians you would expect to perform in the circle. Let's say 10 pipers, right? And let's assume you don't bring any bench players. You just bring only the people, and they get to play. They don't cut anyone or anything like that. So we're not planning 12 to cut down to 10. We're planning like, okay, we got 10 pipers. Mm-hmm. Let's say you got like 5 snares. Let's half that, 5 snares. So now we're at 15 people. You have a bass drummer because you gotta. And then how many tenors do you think? Like 4?
Yeah.
So how many is that? So that's
awesome.
10 pipers.
10 pipers,
5 snares, 4 tenors, and a bass. That's 20 people.
Yes.
Right?
That's a good
band. Yeah, it's like a decent sized band, right?
Yeah.
This is a band you would expect to go out with and win some prizes, right? So let's say you're out of state, and let's say it costs your band, like, I don't even know, in this economy, what do hotel rooms cost anymore? Like $120 a night, maybe?
For a nicer one, $120, and then it depends on the area too.
Yeah.
Where are we going?
If we're going to California, man, $250 a night.
Yeah.
We paid some ridiculous, like, because then you have to add in fees and all that too. So let's say like $150 a night. I'm gonna get out my calculator because I said it was gonna be quick math, but
She lied.
I lied. It's not quick. Calculator. Okay, so we've determined we have 20 individuals, and this is not counting if you have people coming that are like, you know, your band manager, your person who tunes you, who's maybe not a performing member, but they're like just a person you bring or whatever.
No extras.
Is no extra. This is just people that are competing. So you got 20 people. Let's say you have 2 people share a hotel room. So you got 10 hotel rooms. 10 hotel rooms. All right. And we just said it's like $150 a night.
Yeah.
Well, let's say you drive over. Usually what we do is we drive over on Friday night. So Friday is your travel day. You stay Friday night, and then you have a 2-day game. So you have a Saturday, Sunday. So really, if you can leave on Sunday night and get back home, it really sucks. But
it's cheaper.
It's cheaper. We've done like 6 to 8 hour drives that night, and then it sucks because you've just done a game. You played a Highland Games all weekend, and then like mass bands, closing of the day, and then you leave and you have like
change in the parking lot.
Yes. And then you have your 6 to 8 hour drive, and then you got to work the next day, and it sucks. But it's cheaper. So let's just say you're saying Friday night, Saturday night. So we got 10 rooms. That's 2 people per room, 20 people. So 10 rooms at $150 a night times 2 nights. That's $3,000 that this band is going to spend. Minimum. Like I said. So generally, travel money for Highland Games, how much is that? Does anyone know?
I don't know.
It's not $3,000. I'll tell you that. What is called travel money is a very kind, generous gift to the band as a way of saying thank you for coming to our games. And I really appreciate that. I do, because it's hard because bands want to go to your games, and then you kind of just have to pay for them, right? As a games organizer, you gotta pay for every band that decides to come. And if more bands decide to come, you pay more than if less decide to come. It's kind of not exactly the same as planning other entertainment for your event. Like let's say you only have the budget for 2 Celtic rock bands, and that's it for the whole weekend. You don't invite 15 Celtic rock bands. You talk to 2. So pipe bands are different in that way, in that you kind of generally invite whoever will come, right? Because you want it to be a good contest. You want to get as many bands there as possible. But at the same time, as a band, if you're paying for members' hotel rooms, and keep in mind, this does not count any other travel expenses in terms of flights. Like we drive to most of our contests, and I don't at least get reimbursed for the mileage. It's like kind of a tax write-off thing, I think. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of difficult to imagine $3,000. A band is out $3,000 at a minimum, and you might make back, if you win first place at a games that has a lot of funding, you might make back what, like $1,000 out here? How much do you think gets paid? You might make back $1,000. And then travel money might be, I don't know. If it's generous, it'd be $1,000. But that means your net on the weekend is negative $1,000, even though you've had a killer weekend and you've won first place. Like what is
$1,000 is a lot.
That's pretty generous for travel money. I don't think it's normally that much. I mean, we haven't had a games in 2-3 years, yeah. So but it's just like, it's a lose-lose situation. Because as a band, you want to go to a games, but you may not be able, you may lose money. And then especially if like you're a band that doesn't win, or if you win one day and not the other, and then like, what is the travel money or what is the prize money like? It kind of depends. And it's just a really bad situation. So yeah, I don't know how to fix that. Because I've never organized a Highland Games. We'll probably talk to some people who have.
Let's organize a Highland Games.
Oh, man.
Podman Pipecast hosted Highland Games.
Oh, man.
We can do it. Make it good. We'd have tape recorders.
We'll have the tape recorders, don't worry. And we'll pay $10,000 per band. No.
There's an entry fee to pay for that.
That's, oh, man. If money was not an issue, you know how many Highland Games I'd go to?
Seriously, though.
Man, that's like, any bands who don't have issues with paying for that, I don't know. Do you sell crack? Like, what do you do? What do you do to not, as it, like, if you're looking at it from a business model,
how does a band make money?
It doesn't work. I mean, luckily we make a lot of, we make money for performances that we do. Mm-hmm. It's tough though, because is a games a performance? You're kind of being paid for it. It's not a gig. It's not like okay, I said earlier, you've been hired to play mass bands by that's kind of
you've been hired and you're being paid with exposure.
Well, oh yeah. And as we know as musicians, that's the most important thing anyway. But yeah, you're kind of being hired by the games to be there because they want bands to be there, because who likes the Highland Games without pipe bands? But you're also like kind of not, because you want to be there, but
it's both.
It's just, it's not the same as a gig where you wouldn't be there unless you were being paid. It's just, it's a weird situation. What can we do? I don't know. I would bet you though that there are some bands that don't go to games this year. Not because they're not ready, but because they don't have the money. Because we just came off a pandemic. We're still in the pandemic.
Surprise. It's not over yet.
We haven't, had the same number of gigs that we've normally had to get up our revenue. Now, we haven't really had the expenses because we haven't traveled for games that much. But you see what I mean? It's like, it's just a weird system that we have. Mm-hmm. And I know the really successful bands have some way of paying for it. There are like sponsorships, like Dowco Triumph Street Pipe Band, which is not a thing anymore. But sponsored by like Dowco, right? That's money that, if they didn't have the money, they couldn't do a lot of things that they wanted to do. And they ended up dissolving in 2018 because they no longer had the funding, because no longer, as far as I understand, no longer had the sponsorship. Mm-hmm. So it's got to be an issue. And I don't know I know we do a lot of gigs, and that's kind of how we pay for things. It's really hard. Like, I'm sure it's hard in a variety of ways in different places. It's hard when you're in a place like Arizona where you don't have a demand for pipe bands. Mm-hmm. There's kind of a demand for bagpipers. Like when we did our interviews with Michael McClanathan, he talked about being a piper for hire and how like how he does that and how he kind of gets clients, and it's a lot of word of mouth. But it's kind of hard as a band. Like St. Patrick's Day is a big deal for us, which is kind of silly because we're a Scottish band, but it's Irish. But don't tell them that because we need the money. But no, it's like, how do you convince someone they need to pay you $1,000, $2,000 for your pipe band to show up and play their gig?
Whole band.
A whole band, yes.
Like, who needs a whole band?
Yeah. So, you do smaller things, mini bands here and there. But yeah, it's really hard here. I'm sure it's hard in other places, like probably in Scotland where the market's saturated with so many pipe bands. Why would they hire your pipe band? So it's just like, I don't know. What are we doing? I don't know.
What do we gotta do?
What do we gotta do to survive here? I don't know. NFTs? Should we get into NFTs?
Oh, yes.
Make an NFT of my face.
We'll sell it for billions.
Yeah. We're gonna be NFT billionaires.
Yes.
And put all that money towards the pipe band.
And our games.
And our Highland games.
Yes.
So we can pay buku bucks to any bands that show up to our games. So I realize this sounds ridiculous because you're thinking you have no idea how hard it is to organize the Highland Games and to pay for all this stuff. I get it. I don't. I really don't.
Never know till you try.
But you have no idea how hard it is to run a pipe band when you are losing money left to right. Because that's not, that's just the expenses of traveling to a games. That's not counting if you need to buy new drums. RIP if you need to buy new drums. Rest in peace, because yeah. And obviously all of these things are, you gotta do it. You gotta pay for it. But I don't know. What are we doing? We do okay somehow.
Yeah, we make it.
So we're here.
I was just thinking we could start an OnlyFans.
Oh, yeah. Only bands. Hot take. Only bands.
Only bands.
Yeah. I don't know. Donations? Our band, shameless plug, is a 501c3 nonprofit. So when you don't want the tax man to take your money, donate to the band, and then we get your money.
We are not the tax man.
No.
So there you go.
So
give it to us.
It's a tax write-off. We'll send you a letter saying that you made a donation, and then you get that as proof when you go to see the IRS.
And they audit you.
Yeah, and they audit you. You say, here, I donated all of my money to the pipe band. I don't have any money for you. And they'll be like, oh, okay.
We'll donate our money too.
Yeah, donate all your money to the pipe band. That's the solution, because if you donated all your money to the band, to whatever your local pipe band is, donate all your money, and then you won't have to pay taxes as long as that band is a nonprofit. And then that band will have the money and they'll be able to do whatever they want.
And we'll go to your games.
Yeah. And they'll come to our games.
Yes.
Our games that we're going to have, and we're going to pay them. And then they'll have the money and they'll be able to go to more games. I think we fixed it.
Yes, there we go. Done. Problem solved.
Done. Hot take. Donate all your money to a pipe band. By the way, if your band is not a nonprofit, it should be. Research that. Get yourself some legal counsel if you need to. How to figure that out. It's just a good deal. Do it.
Do it.
That's your two things you need to do this week. Donate all your money to a pipe. Wait.
to our pipe band.
Do it in the correct order. Make sure you find a pipe band that's a nonprofit. Donate all your money to them, and then make your pipe band a nonprofit. So next time you can donate your money to your pipe band. Or you could, whatever, give all your money to a pipe band. That's the bottom line.
Yep.
That's it.
That's the bottom dollar.
That's the bottom dollar is for a pipe band.
Yes.
That's all I got. You got any more hot takes?
I think I don't. I think we're gonna have the best games ever when we organize them.
Hot take.
Mm-hmm. And all y'all are gonna come.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's gonna be so easy.
So easy to organize a game.
Oh, it's so easy. And there's just, you have so much money and you can pay whoever you want with it. There are never any issues.
No, it all just works out.
It just works.
I don't know what their issue is. Like,
organizing a games is easy. Hot takes. All right. Well, what are your hot takes? I'm sure you got some.
You didn't like our hot take? That's a shame.
Yeah. That's their hot take? Is that they didn't like our hot take?
Yes.
Okay. Hot take. I get you. I respect another hot take. Yeah, I'm sure there's something. Think about it. And, I have hope that some of these things could change
One
in
day,
22.
when we're in charge.
Eventually. Like, we've been away from games so long. I honestly kind of worry if some of the organizers are going to forget how to do it, you know what I mean? Or not want to do it. Because they've all had, like, 2 to 3 years of just like not doing it.
They've tasted the freedom.
Yes, and I don't want you to have the freedom. I want you to keep organizing games because I want to go to your games.
Yes, just pay us a little more.
Just it's not hard. No. Yeah, it's just but all we can do is try to start conversation, right?
Yep.
And maybe someone else will pick up one of the ideas and run with it.
We believe in you.
Yeah, you.
Yes.
No, not you, but you.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the other guy, you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go out there.
That other one needs to get out of here. Get out of here.
Why are you even listening?
But you right there. You can make this happen.
Mm-hmm. You're the future of the pipe band world.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Not the other guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not even here anymore.
He's not the chosen one.
No.
You're the chosen one.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this show, then support us on Patreon for exclusive content as well as the video of us recording this. We'll have special exercises we'll be writing as well as tips and tricks with tenor drumming and other instruments to come. Subscribe to us on YouTube for some tenor tutorials and possibly other tutorials later on. And like us on Facebook at Podband Pipecast.